Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. It's time for video number 4 in my Tulip card series. In my first 3 videos, I focused on tulip die sets. In today's video, I'll be using some lovely tulip pattern paper. The collection is called Spring Blooms. It's by Newton's Nook Designs. I was hoping to find a paper pad that was just tulips so I could do a 6x6 video. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one. If you've seen one out there, let me know in the comments. The Spring Blooms collection has 3 different designs featuring just tulips, and then there's also some tulips mixed with other lovely flowers. In today's video, I'll be using the tulip designs along with some of the tone-on-tone patterns in the paper collection. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I'll be sharing 5 different card designs today. I will be using card sketches for inspiration. The first sketch is from MFT. This is number 687. And if you are interested in this sketch with measurements, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. The link is in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For my first card, using this lovely yellow tone-on-tone gingham paper for the background, adding a strip of a light purple tone-on-tone paper. For a little bit of shine, I did put a Love from Lizzie peel off above and below that purple strip. I'll layer the background piece on some yellow cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. For the 3 narrow banners in the upper right-hand corner, I'm using solid cardstock for my stash. I have a purple and a pink. I'll cut a fishtail on the bottom. I'll place one of the purple banners down first, then adhere the pink banner. Now I'll put glue on the back and adhere the 2 purple banners. Having the lines from the gingham background made it really easy to get the 3 banners nice and straight. One of the pattern papers with tulips had this beautiful tulip scene, skies, clouds, and a row of tulips. Using a stitched oval die, I cut out one portion of the tulips. Using the next size up die, I cut out a second piece from Vellum. I'll layer the 2 pieces together. And I did place a large acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dried. Then I'll flip over the oval, put foam dimension on the back. I'm using scrapbook.com's large rounds foam. This is their 1 millimeter thickness. I'll add a circle foam piece all along the outside edge of the oval, and in the very center I'm using some of the leftover negative portion of the foam. No reason to let that go to waste. Then I'll remove the release paper and adhere the oval on the left side of the card. For a sentiment, I'm using Pretty Pink Posh's Simple Sentiment stamp set. This is one of my favorite sets. It has a really nice variety of sentiments. I've already stamped out the sentiment just saying hello. I'll be adhering it in the upper right-hand corner on top of the 3 small banners. First, I'll put some foam on the right and left side where it goes off of the banners. And I flipped the sentiment upside down so I could see how much foam I needed to add. The foam squares are very small, but I'm still cutting one in half since I need just a tiny piece next to the other square. I also put a scrap piece of cardstock in the center of the sentiment, and that'll help it stay nice and level. I'll remove the release paper, add a little bit of glue, and adhere the sentiment on the banners in the upper right-hand corner. For a final finishing touch, using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs, this is the butterfly border design. I'll add 3 purple butterflies around the sentiment and 2 in the lower left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 2, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 691. I'm using the lovely pattern with lots of tulip and white in the background. For both of the pattern paper pieces, I'm using the same design. I'll layer both of them on some purple cardstock. For the smaller rectangle piece, I will be popping it up with some foam dimension. Using scrapbook.com's 1/4 inch roll, this is their 1 millimeter thickness. On the very background, I'll first add a couple of Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the purple mirror color in the pinstripe style. I used the grid lines on my craft mat to get that first peel-off nice and straight. Then I'll add a second peel-off underneath. This time I'm using some of the scrap pieces since the very center of the card will be covered up. I'll wrap the ends around the back, put ATG tape on the back, and layer this piece on the purple cardstock. Next, I'll adhere the smaller rectangle piece with tulips. It's about center on the card, but a little bit higher since I want to leave enough space underneath for the sentiment. You can see now I covered up that missing gap of peel-offs in the center of the card. And this is why you always keep those small scraps. Sometimes you need just a tiny little piece. Then I'll flip this over, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out "Sending you a happy hello," and this is from Honeybee Stamps Mini Messages Everyday Stamp Set. I used black ink and stamped it on some white shimmer cardstock, and I did let that sit for a little bit so I didn't smudge the ink. I'll cut a fishtail on the right and left side, flip over the sentiment, and pop it up with some foam dimension. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment underneath the smaller tulip panel. Using a small scrap piece of purple cardstock, I'll cut a banner. First cut a fishtail on the bottom, then I'll cut the right side in slightly at an angle, flip it over, and do the same thing on the other side. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner of the smaller panel. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a couple of butterflies on the right and left side of the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 3, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 49. This card will be featuring 3 pattern papers from the collection. I have the tulip design with the soft yellow background, a tone-on-tone green pattern, and for the very background of the card, using some of the teal gingham paper. I'll layer the 2 small rectangles on some green cardstock. For the center panel of the card, use some white shimmer cardstock. I'm adding a strip of yellow cardstock at the bottom. For a little bit of shine and separation, I'll put a Love from Lizzie peel-off along the edge of that yellow panel. This is the yellow color peel-off with gold overlay, so it has this beautiful shine. I'll wrap the ends around the back, layer this piece on the same green cardstock, then I'll adhere it on the light teal gingham pattern paper. For a card design like this, you could always use a square or rectangle die and cut out the very center of that gingham paper. That way you can use it on another card. Next, I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. Now I'll add the 2 small rectangle pieces. Put the green tone-on-tone piece down first, and I'll adhere it with glue. The small tulip panel will be sitting on several different layers, but in some areas it goes off of those layers. So to help keep everything level, I'm adding some scrap cardstock and also scrap pattern paper pieces. I'll add some scrap pieces at the bottom of the tulip panel and also some in the upper left-hand corner. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place, following the design of the card sketch. For a sentiment, I'll be stamping it on the yellow strip at the bottom of the card. Since most of my card is finished, I don't want to mess it up, so I will be using my mini MISTI for stamping. The sentiment is "Spring Has Sprung," and this is from Pretty Pink Posh's Sentiment Strips Easter Set. And I did ink up this sentiment a couple times to get a nice solid impression. For embellishments, I'll be adding more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the mini circle style in the gold glitter color. I'll put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 1 above the sentiment on the right side. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from Sugar Pea Designs. This is Sugar Sketch number 14. This is a fun sketch since you can add lots of different pattern paper pieces. Of course, you could also use solid cardstock. Since this paper pad includes lots of tone-on-tone designs, I was able to mix and match several different pattern paper pieces. Of course, the featured paper is the Tulip design, using the same paper I used on the previous card, the lovely tulips with that light yellow background. I did round the top 2 corners, layered that piece on some purple cardstock. For the background of my card, I have the light purple floral tone-on-tone paper. I'll layer that piece on some purple cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For most of my cardstock layers, I add an additional 1/8 of an inch. So the purple floral paper for the background is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and that purple cardstock layer is 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. For the large banner on the left-hand side, use some of the yellow tone-on-tone gingham paper, cut a fishtail on the bottom. I'll adhere that down first. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I did cut that circle in half. I also trimmed off the left side of this circle since I don't need to add any extra layers. For the smaller banner, I'm using a tone-on-tone pink floral design, and I'll adhere that on the left side of the circle. Before adhering the tulip panel, I will put a scrap cardstock piece above that half circle, and that'll help it stay nice and level. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out just a note, and this is from Pretty Pink Posh's Simple Sentiment Stamp Set. I'll adhere this sentiment on the right side of the pink banner and underneath the tulip panel. On the card sketch, there's 1 heart on the left-hand side. I'll be adding 2 hearts, and I cut them out from some purple cardstock that has a pearlescent finish on one side. For the heart on the right side, I did put some foam dimension at the very bottom and also a small scrap piece of cardstock. When I have narrow strips of pattern paper left over, I like to add them on the inside of the card just for a little extra detail. For embellishments, I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the mini circle style in silver holographic color, so they're super sparkly. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For my final card design, this sketch is from MFT. This is number 693. I still had some leftover paper of the lovely tulip scene. So when I saw this sketch, I thought they would look perfect featured as those semicircles. I'll first adhere the tulip image in the lower left-hand corner. I pulled out a small silicone mat since I don't want to get glue all over my workspace mat. Part of that circle will go off the edge. Once I've adhered it down, I'll flip over this paper, use my scissors, and trim off the overhang. Then I'll add the other semicircle image in the upper right-hand corner. Using this lovely green tone-on-tone gingham paper for the background, I'll layer it on some green cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For the small rectangle at the bottom of the card, using the purple tone-on-tone design, and this is actually the back side of that tulip paper. I'll layer it on some purple cardstock, put glue on the back, and adhere it in place. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out Thinking of You. I'll cut a fishtail on the right and left side. Since the very right side of the sentiment will go off of that purple panel, I will add a small piece of foam dimension. I'll remove the release paper, put glue on the back of the rest of the sentiment and adhere it in place. Next, I'll add the small scrap piece of green tone-on-tone gingham paper on the inside of the card. I always have these narrow strips left over when I use the pattern paper for the background of my card. Using a small scrap piece of green cardstock, I'll cut a banner and adhere it in the upper left-hand corner. I call this my whimsical banner. I think it adds a fun detail. Then for a final finishing touch, using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs for embellishments. This is the mini circle style in the silver holographic color. I'll put 2 on the banner in the upper left-hand corner and 3 around the sentiment. And there is my finished card. This time I was only able to make 1 since that was the last of this lovely tulip pattern paper. Now here's another look at the 9 cards I made using some lovely tulip pattern paper from Newton's Nook Design. I used their Spring Blooms collection. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. I've been having so much fun doing this tulip card series since tulips are my favorite flower. Hopefully you've been enjoying it as well. I think for my next tulip video, I'll be using a stamp set from Jaded Blossom. This is a set that was released last year. It's called Tulips. There's the stamp set and coordinating die set. This is a great set if you love to color. You can use the outline of the tulips and leaves, or you can use the solid pieces with colored ink and add some beautiful layers. This set is Jaded Blossom's monthly spotlight for April, so it's currently on sale, and I do have a link in the description box. I've mentioned visiting the tulip fields in Skagit Valley, and several people have asked if I'd share some photos, so I'm sharing a few photos of my trip last year when it was pouring down rain, but these are some of my favorite pictures. I love the raindrops on the tulips, so pretty. I haven't made it to the fields yet this year, but I'm still hoping that I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.